Pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
Israel.
Public comment, I don't think we have any. All right, we'll move on to 4. Approval of the March 12th, 2024 Public Safety Committee meeting minutes. Motion made by Supervisor Marash,
Second.
second by Gene Mask, Supervisor Mask. Policy issues, discussion, and potential committee determination. We have none. Oh, we got to vote on that. Thanks. See, first time doing this. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. 6, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy. A, directing administration to move forward with the purchase of land from NTC. And B, authorization of creation of 1 full-time forensic pathologist position. As you can see, we did change some of the verbiage in the packet, and I will turn that over to the administrator to go through that, and he will have a brief, he told me, really brief discussion on that.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will endeavor to be brief. You have a packet that I think lays out pretty succinctly well why we're asking you to move forward. I just want to start with saying I recognize that these are 2 important resolutions relative to the project that you know very much about. The reason that we're trying to move these forward promptly is based on the operations of the Forensic Science Center and the timing that's laid out in that memo. And to do that, we need to actually take action at your second meeting of the new board. So we're working through the existing committee right now for these 2 items, and then we will take them for education to the new board next week, Tuesday. And then hopefully, should the board have sufficient information, the board will be able to take action at their following voting meeting. But the 2 resolutions are before you. One is for the purchase of land. Very briefly, the resolution lays this out, but if we hope to close bids, which should happen in the next couple of weeks, and then proceed with a groundbreaking shortly thereafter, it is my professional recommendation to you that we own the land before we build a building on it. NTC has already taken the action necessary through their committees to authorize Dr. Warden to move forward with that transaction. We've had numerous conversations about it. I just need direction and approval from the board to do that based on your existing board rules and statutes that require board authorization to transact land. The second resolution before you is for the creation of the forensic pathologist position. Again, the memo lays this out, but the short explanation is we really need to go through the process to bring this person on board before we're going to have the facility complete. There's a lot of upfront work, whether it's policies, policy formation, or training of staff. There's a lot of things that need to happen. You don't just hire the cook the day you open the restaurant. Same sort of idea. So happy to answer any questions. Jessica is here to discuss anything, Mike as well, Chris and myself on the project, but those are the 2 resolutions before you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just got a couple questions and kind of in the logistics of the buying the property. Like looking at it like from a taxpayer standpoint, I kind of look at it like it's buying the property. It's kind of like it's owned by the taxpayers, but I'm just wondering what the reasoning is why the county's got to buy it from NTC.
Well, the county is building a $15 million building.
Yeah.
My general perspective is it's best to own the land on which your building exists. The second piece that is laid out in the resolution, which I think is important, any amount we pay we ultimately determine to buy the land for, NTC is putting back into the project in terms of other contributions that they're going to make to the project. So effectively, from the taxpayer perspective, this transaction has no impact on the taxpayer. All of the money is going toward the project.
Oh, okay. So they're going to use it in the future is what they're going to use it for their programs, right? NTC is going to use it for their programs?
Well, we're going to operate our forensic science center out of the building that is built. We have an agreement with NTC that we will partner on the delivery of educational programs. We certainly, we certainly envision that our medical examiner's office will provide training and education to law enforcement, emergency medical providers, prosecutors, in the facility, and that NTC envisions tailoring some of their educational programs to the work that we're doing. But the building, first and foremost, and the land is going to be Marathon County owned. I have no doubt as part of that transaction, we've had discussions with NTC that if at any time in the future Marathon County ceases operations of the Forensic Science Center, that NTC would have the opportunity to purchase the land back for their operations. But the reason we have to own it is also a function of NTC's rules. We cannot do a long-term land lease, which would be the other way to move forward. We cannot do a long-term land lease based on the rules, as I understand them, that exist for NTC and how they need to operate. So we do need to buy the land.
Okay. So how did they come to like the amount too? Is that like considered like a fair market value, or I mean, how did they determine that? I'm just curious.
I would say it's fair market value. That was a discussion that NTC has had. We need to fine tune exactly the location, but I don't know, Chris, Mike, you guys have anything you want to add to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so for fair market value, that's a requirement for the college to sell it to us. So that's part of the process on their side. And then with the matching piece, that helps kind of shape the final amount of land, because we have the site civil location for the building itself. And then you've got sort of the surrounding areas for parking and whatnot. And then you've got the memorial garden included in that. So the overall package will be around 2.5 acres in terms of overall size. But we've been working with Rob and the leadership over there to figure out what the best location for them and their needs are as well. So that's been a months-long conversation that's evolved, and ultimately we're not getting in the way of anything from their point of view. So, but is there another part of the question I'm forgetting? Okay.
Chairman Gibbs.
I was just going to reiterate that I think it's state statutes and the governing body of the technical colleges at the state level says that they cannot, one, just transfer the property, and it had to be sold at fair market value. But the agreement is that they're going to provide in-kind in exchange for the purchase price.
Supervisor Marash.
On page 9, where it states compensation salary range, $323,772.80 maximum, is that customary to put down a maximum salary range?
It'll be customary in the recruitment. We wanted to lay out, because again, kind of these are two positions and we're recruiting for something in between. If you have two pathologists in the office, you would have a chief and a deputy. And those are within the memo, you'll see reference to the costing work that our HR department has done relative to looking out to other counties that operate these facilities to kind of come up with some estimates. We listed the initial maximum at the midpoint for the chief medical examiner, which would be the chief pathologist position. You'll see that based on our initial work, that midpoint for the chief position is also, it corresponds closely with the maximum position for the chief deputy medical examiner. So our intent is, as we would for any position, even if you come in with a significant amount of experience, we generally don't go above that midpoint for an individual. We, of course, like to, our plan would be, and Jessica and I have had this conversation a number of times, depending on the level of experience, certainly for your chief deputy, if you get somebody who is kind of more, this is their first job, they're initially out of school, we expect to be much closer to that midpoint, that minimum, But should, when we open this facility, we also have applicants that are far along in their career and much more in line with that chief medical examiner position, we would envision still being closer to that midpoint. We hope to have room on that maximum, but we'll see the candidate pool that we get, which is kind of alluded to in that memo. I don't know, does that answer your question? Okay.
Go ahead.
I see you have 135,000 for 2024 salary. When we break ground, when is the thoughts of initial starting?
We wouldn't envision that person starting until sometime after September is kind of our initial game plan. We have, again, as laid out in that memo, a number of things that have to happen. We really hope to not only move forward with the site work, but also we envision coming forward through the budget process with a reorganization of Jess's office. So it's not just that her existing staff stay the same and then we operate in a whole nother fashion where we're doing autopsies. We envision a number of new positions coming through, we would want that physician involvement in helping us make sure we have everything laid out correctly. Similarly with final equipment selections, which is referenced in there, as well as policy finalization. Jess will do a lot of that work on the front end, but we certainly will need them on board. And then we do envision, and we just got word from a local medical provider that has space, we do envision that it being a positive for us to start to cross-train our existing staff on pathology assisting before we open the new facility. So we would envision actually having some autopsies completed, which is referenced in the memo. That keeps the cost low it offsets, I should say, some of the expenses with bringing that forensic pathologist on board. If we are doing those autopsies through that leased space, which we need to finalize the lease, we'll have Corporation Counsel work on that as soon as we get the initial draft from the hospital system that we've been talking with. Does that answer your question? I mean, I believe there's no need for a budget amendment as laid out in the resolution because we have funds allocated through the budget and we anticipate those additional reductions in expenses from autopsies sufficient to cover that cost. If at any point the plan changes, you guys will be first to know. But right now we're confident this is the next step, the most prudent next steps.
Anything further? Go ahead.
So I'd like to make a motion to move the resolution approving land purchase for Regional Forensic Science Center forward to Human Resources, Finance, and Property.
A motion on the floor. Is there a second? Motion made and second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
I'll make a motion. Can we go to B? All right. I'll make a motion to authorize creation of the 1.0 FTE forensic pathologist position and forward that to HR and Finance.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Marash. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 7, educational presentations and committee discussion, none. Next meeting date, time, announcements, and future agenda items. I'd like to thank everyone for the last 2 years for all the work you've done for this committee. We'll see what happens at the next meeting, see where everyone's going to be assigned, but it's a pleasure working with you for 2 years. With that, committee members are asked to bring future ideas for future discussion. Don't know if that's going to pertain or not, but 8B, next meeting is Tuesday, May 7th at 1:30, and I'll take number 9. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank the Public Safety Committee for the last 6 years of following along with this process. Without your support, public safety, I think it would have been more difficult, but I do appreciate, and I know Jess does, and Administrator Leonard does too also, and Chris. They put a lot of work. The staff also put a lot of time into this. So I just want to thank them for all their hard work. And like I said, I can't wait to see until this building is built in its reality. So thank you.
All right, we'll take number 9. Motion made, second. All in favor? All right. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone.